"Get this trash out of my gym," Drake the Titan Vance spat, his voice dripping with contempt as he pointed a gloved finger towards the entrance. All training ceased. The rhythmic pounding of heavy bags and the skip of ropes fell silent. Every eye in the Phantom Fist Elite Boxing Academy in downtown Chicago turned to see what had offended the reigning middleweight king. There, standing under the harsh fluorescent lights, was Liam "Shadow" Okafor. At 19, his lean frame seemed to swallow his second-hand hoodie. The dust of the Kenyan slums of Kibera seemed to still cling to his worn-out sneakers, a stark contrast to the gleaming, air-conditioned perfection of a gym where membership cost more than his family back home saw in a year. Drake, 27, was more than a champion. He was a brand, chiseled, blonde, and merciless. He built his empire not just on knockouts, but on a carefully crafted persona of superiority. His latest Twitter post, a photo of him posing beside his luxury car with the caption, "Some are born to rule, others to serve," was already trending. I am here for the International Outreach Program," Liam stated, his voice soft but clear, holding a crumpled acceptance letter. "It says I can train here." A cruel, booming laugh erupted from Drake, echoing off the walls. "Outreach, kid? This isn't a charity. This is where champions are forged. We don't hand out participation trophies here. We deal in reality." Liam had arrived in the U.S. 3 months ago, carrying the hopes of his entire community. He spent his nights stacking shelves in a warehouse, and his days navigating a world that seemed designed to reject him. This program was his only bridge to a dream that felt a million miles away from the gritty, makeshift rings of Kibera. "The program is valid, Drake," a steady voice cut through the tension. "Miles, the old wolf Donovan, the gym's owner and a legendary trainer with 40 years of experience, stepped out of his office, and Liam is our first selected candidate. His paperwork is in order." Drake rolled his eyes so hard it seemed theatrical. "Miles, be serious. You're going to let this project use my facilities? My sponsors pay for a premium image, not for this feel-good nonsense." "Your sponsors pay me to run this gym, and I decide who trains here," Miles retorted, his gaze unwavering. A wicked grin spread across Drake's face. He sauntered over to Liam, circling him like a shark. "You want to train with the best so badly? Let's see if you can even stand it. A little spar, you and me, 3 rounds." The air grew thick. Everyone knew what this was, a public execution designed to crush a spirit before it could even dare to hope. If you can stay on your feet, you can stay. If you fall, Drake made a dismissive gesture, flicking his wrist as if swatting away a fly. "You crawl back to wherever you came from." Liam met Drake's gaze. The fear in his eyes was real, but beneath it burned something else, a deep, unyielding ember that refused to be extinguished. It wasn't just anger. It was a lifetime of being looked down upon, crystallized into a terrifying calm. "I accept," Liam said, his voice not much above a whisper, yet it carried to every corner of the silent gym. Drake was taken aback. He had expected pleading, tears, retreat, not this quiet resolve. "You're signing up for a world of pain, kid. I'll make you regret you ever dreamed this big." "I do not regret dreams," Liam replied, and for the first time, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. "I only regret not fighting for them." What Drake, the Titan Vance, could never have known was that in the shadowy, unforgiving alleyways of Kibera, Liam Okafor wasn't just a boy with a dream. He was a legend known by a single feared name, Shadow, and like any shadow, he was at his most powerful when the light was at its brightest, and his opponents were too blinded by their own glow to see him coming. As Drake was already planning his post-spar social media captions, #charity case closed, Miles Donovan watched the stillness in Liam's posture and felt a jolt of recognition. It was the same aura he had seen in once-in-a-generation fighters, the calm before the storm. The news spread like a virus. Drake Vance versus a nobody from Kenya. Phones were drawn, Messages flew. The gym, within minutes, was packed with onlookers smelling the blood of an easy kill. 3 rounds, 18-ounce gloves. This is sparring, not a title fight, Miles announced, his tone leaving no room for argument. Drake chuckled, already filming a boomerang for his Instagram story. Relax, old man. This'll be over before my coffee gets cold. He turned to his phone. You guys seeing this? About to teach a lesson in reality to someone who clearly watches too many movies. The comments flooded in. Annihilate him, Drake. Show him his place. This is why I follow you, no mercy. While Drake bathed in the digital adoration, Liam retreated to a corner. His hands were steady. They always were. In the slums, trembling hands meant a lost fight, and a lost fight meant no food. Miles followed him. Liam, you don't have to do this. The program is yours, regardless. This is just his ego. It's not worth getting hurt over. I will not be the one who gets hurt, Liam said, his voice eerily calm. Liam, he's a world champion. He has technique, power, reach, experience. I have what he has lost, Liam interrupted, finally looking up at Miles. And what is that? The will to survive. The words hung in the air. Miles had heard many fighters talk of hunger, but this was different. This wasn't a metaphor. This was a statement of fact. Tell me, son, Miles said, lowering his voice. Why? Why step into his trap? Liam's eyes grew distant, seeing not the gleaming gym, but the sun-baked earth of Kibera. The sound of cheering crowds was replaced by the frantic shouts of underground betting rings. Because men like him are the same everywhere, Liam said softly. They think their money, their skin, their passport makes them superior. They believe their strength comes from a gym. They are wrong. How are they wrong? True strength, Liam said, his gaze snapping back to Miles, sharp and focused, comes from knowing what it means to have nothing, to fight not for a belt, but for the right to exist. A shiver ran down Miles's spine. He was no longer looking at a scared kid. He was looking at a predator who had learned to hunt in the world's most concrete jungle. Outside, Drake was in his element, narrating the impending humiliation to his followers. Look at his shoes, people. I bet he learned to fight by running from the police. The laughter was loud, but some of the veteran fighters weren't joining in. There was a grace in Liam's movements as he warmed up. A coiled efficiency that spoke of a different kind of education. Javier El Toro Ruiz, a retired heavyweight known for his brutal power, nudged his training partner. I don't like this, man. That quiet? That's not fear. That's patience. I've seen it before. The quiet ones, they have nothing to lose. Drake, blinded by arrogance, missed the warning signs entirely. The problem with these kids from the third world, he preached to his camera, is they think struggle is a substitute for skill. Poverty doesn't teach you how to box. It just teaches you how to take a punch. At that moment, Liam shed his hoodie. His body was not bulky like Drake's, but every muscle was defined, etched not by weights, but by a life of hardship. He moved towards the ring, his footsteps silent, his presence suddenly filling the space. Ready for your first and last lesson? Drake sneered from the ring. My whole life has been a lesson. Liam replied, I am always ready. What Drake Vance, in all his privileged glory, could never fathom was that Shadow Okafor had thrown his first punch at 6, not for sport, but to protect the loaf of bread for his sister. By 10, he was fighting grown men in illicit, bare-knuckle fights, where the only rule was to stay conscious. By 16, he was a myth, a ghost who moved faster than the eye could follow, and struck with the silent finality of a shadow at dusk. He came to America to escape that life, to build a new one with his gloves, not his fists. But some battles choose you. Miles helped Liam with his gloves, his experienced fingers noticing what should have been impossible. The hands of a beginner were smooth, but Liam's knuckles told a different, grittier story. Liam, Miles said, his voice low. Level with me. Have you ever been in a ring before? Liam looked at Drake, who was now shadowboxing for the cameras, a flawless specimen of modern athletic training. Then he looked back at Miles, and that faint, knowing smile returned. It depends, he said, on what you call a ring. The bell for the first round rang. Drake the Titan Vance immediately charged forward, unleashing a barrage of powerful jabs and crosses meant to overwhelm and intimidate. But something strange happened. His punches sliced through empty air. Liam seemed to melt away from every attack, his upper body moving in subtle, imperceptible shifts that made Drake's best shots miss by millimeters. Stand still, you rat, Drake growled, frustration creeping into his voice as he increased his aggression. The more Drake pressed, the more Liam evaded. He wasn't running. He was analyzing, his dark eyes missing nothing. He moved with an economy of motion that was unnerving, his feet barely making a sound on the canvas. Then, in a fleeting opening as Drake overextended on a right hand, Liam countered. It wasn't a powerful blow, but a sharp, stinging jab that snapped Drake's head back and landed flush on his nose. A collective gasp went through the gym. Drake blinked, touching his nose in disbelief. A trickle of blood confirmed it. He had been hit by the charity case. Before we continue the story, if you're enjoying it so far, please make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your comments below. Your feedback helps us create even better stories for you. The dynamic had shifted. Drake's confidence was now mixed with visible frustration. He was breathing heavier, his punches becoming wilder. Liam, in contrast, seemed to be moving more fluidly, his calmness growing. He began to open up. His own punches, compact, accurate, and deceptively powerful, started to find their mark. A hook to the body made Drake grunt. A straight right to the chin staggered him. "Who is this kid?" someone yelled from the crowd. Javier El Toro Ruiz, watching intently, muttered to himself, "He's not just surviving. He's hunting." Drake's social media feed, which he had hoped to fill with highlights of his domination, was now blowing up with comments of a different nature. Is Drake getting schooled? This Kenyan guy is incredible. Shadow is destroying the Titan. Drake's manager David was screaming instructions from the corner, but Drake was too panicked to hear. The boos from the crowd, now firmly on Liam's side, were deafening. That's when Liam, Shadow, Okafor decided to end the charade. "You call yourself a Titan," Liam said, his voice calm, yet cutting through the noise as he cornered Drake against the ropes. "But you are built on sand." The combination that followed was a blur. A feint to the body, a lightning-fast jab to the face that broke Drake's guard, a thunderous cross to the jaw, and a final concussive hook that sent a spray of sweat flying into the air. It was a symphony of violence, executed in under 2 seconds. Drake the Titan Vance crumpled to the canvas. His eyes were open, but they saw nothing. He was out cold. The gym erupted. Cheers, screams, the sound of dozens of phones recording the moment. The undefeated champion had been knocked out by a young man he had tried to humiliate. Miles Donovan, his voice thick with emotion, began the count. 8, 9, 10. Liam didn't celebrate. He walked calmly to his corner, then went over to where Drake was slowly being revived by his panicked team. "You wanted to teach me about reality," Liam said, looking down at the dethroned champion. "The reality is, respect is not given with a championship belt. It is earned with character. You have none." Drake could only look up, his ego as shattered as his undefeated record. David, Drake's manager, was frantically checking his phone. "Drake, your Instagram. You've lost 200,000 followers in the last 10 minutes. The sponsors, they're calling. They're pulling out." The video of the knockout was already going viral. The meme, #TitanFalls, was trending globally. The narrative had completely flipped, and Drake was now the villain of his own story. Miles approached Liam, putting a hand on his shoulder. "Shadow, that was. I've never seen anything like it. Why hide all that? Why let him think you were nothing? Liam watched as a weeping Drake was helped from the ring, his legacy in tatters. A lion does not need to tell the hunter he is a lion. He simply shows him when the time is right. 3 months later, the fallout was brutal and swift. Drake Vance lost all his major sponsorships. His reputation was irreparably damaged. He was now a cautionary tale about arrogance and prejudice, a punchline in memes. He tried to issue a public apology, but the internet is merciless. The clip of him mocking Liam's shoes was played endlessly alongside the video of his knockout. Liam Shadow Okafor, however, became an overnight global sensation. He signed a multi-million-dollar contract with Apex Fight Promotions. His story of resilience resonated worldwide. Sportswear brands lined up to sponsor him, launching campaigns with slogans like "Forged in Shadow, Crowned in Light." Miles's gym, once known for training Drake, was now flooded with applications from every corner of the world, all inspired by Liam. The International Outreach Program became the gym's flagship initiative, funded by a portion of Liam's earnings. In his first professional fight, Liam Shadow Okafor faced a top-ranked contender. He knocked him out in the second round with the same chilling efficiency he had shown against Drake. During his post-fight interview in a packed arena with the world watching, he didn't thank his promoters first. "I want to thank all those who look at a person's skin, their passport, or their poverty and see weakness," he said, the championship belt gleaming on his shoulder. "You are the fuel. You are the fire. You are the reason we fight harder, to prove that your judgment is the greatest weakness of all." Drake Vance watched that fight from a small, rented apartment, his championship belts gathering dust in a storage unit. As the referee raised Liam's hand, he finally understood the difference between being a champion in the ring and being a champion in life. Liam Okafor didn't just win a fight that day in Chicago. He started a revolution. He proved that the most powerful force in the world is not brute strength, but an unbreakable spirit forged in adversity. And he taught everyone a forgettable lesson. Never, ever underestimate the shadow, for it is in the darkest places that the strongest lights are born. Thank you for listening to the story. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe Our Differences channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support means a lot and helps the channel grow. See you in the next story.